I'm Gary Hess, News Radio WRVA, the voice of Virginia.
Virginia, we finally got a budget. Guess what paid the price when they chose to nudge it? They found a brand new piggy bank to raid. Now everybody's cheering for the deal they made. Portsmouth Lucas got the money she sought. Data center diva got the deal she bought. Amazon Don says it's all fine and grand, but nobody's sure where it's hitting the land. Down in Richmond under Capitol lights, they're counting up billions in those late night fights. One says spend big, one signs checks, one says hold on, who's feeling the effects? Virginia, we finally got a budget.
We finally got a budget in Virginia. Took a while, came to the very last day, but we finally have a budget. Welcome, everybody. It's News Radio WRVA. My name is Rich Herrera, 634 this morning here on Richmond's Morning News. We got a lot to get to this morning on the program, but let's talk about this budget that we have here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So it took a while. We finally got it. They raided the piggy banks, and they've decided that they're now going to turn their attention on the data centers. It's amazing watching Democratic lawmakers in this General Assembly just kind of look around and like, which person, entity, business can I go take money from and tax? I've never seen it. Just watching and looking at this, it's amazing just walking around and, whose pocket am I going to stick my hand into today to get more money for things I think I want, need, or desire? Because that's really what this budget came down to. So after all this is said and done, this could be one of the worst budgets I've ever seen because it's full of nonsense like slush funds. It has laws that have been put in there that nobody has to put their name on. And it has the biggest lack of transparency and a pushback against sunshine that I've ever seen in my life. I will give you this. And by the way, Tom Garrett, member of the House of Delegates, former U.S. Congressman, will join us coming up in a couple hours here on the program. You don't want to miss what he's going to have to say about it. You've heard some quotes about him all morning long. So let's start with the gun laws. The gun laws that we've seen passed out of this General Assembly, and some of these in this budget, are so poorly written, are so legally undefinable, and a lot of them, I think, are going to get struck down by the courts. You're already starting to see some of these struck down by the courts. Two local courts said, I don't think these are going to work. Were they written poorly on purpose so you can bring extra things into it, or are they just inept? That's a question you have to ask. Were you just inept at your job in writing these gun laws, or did you leave them ambiguous so you could expand them once you get them passed? Either way, shame on you. So either you wrote them and you have no idea what you're doing, or you wrote them because you wanted to make them so ambiguous you could expand those and have more definitions pushed across than what was in the original gun law. There's one thing that we've seen out of this General Assembly. Number two, this is the part that infuriates me, and it should infuriate you. And I'm going to say this, whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, this should infuriate you. The General Assembly in this budget, which will be signed by the governor, took away the ability to look into the finances of the campaigns of statewide elected officials. Right now, we audit the governor, the lieutenant governor, attorney general, and then we'll spot check members of the General Assembly. They wiped that out in this budget. They wiped it out in this budget. I don't care if you voted for Donald Trump or you voted for Kamala Harris. How in the world do you think that's a good idea to have less transparency to see where the money's coming from and how they're spending it? There is absolutely no reason why that should be in there, and I'm going to make it my duty to find out who put that in there, and I'm going to ask them about it. But the fact that you said we're not going to audit the governor's race anymore, or the lieutenant governor, or the attorney general, we're not going to find out where their money came from and how they spent it, shame on whoever put it in there, and shame on whoever voted for this, and shame on anybody who would put their name to a bill like this, a budget like this, that has something like that, that takes away the way for the people of Virginia to see how you got elected. That's enough to veto the whole darn thing and leave it sitting on the side of the road like a scrap heap that it really is. But we'll continue to go on as I work myself into a lather over this. I'm reading from the RTD this morning, and these are quotes from Scott Surville, Democrat from Fairfax. I think we went through a lot to get here, but at the end of the day, data centers are going to contribute about $1.2 billion over this year to help fund our government, just like every other taxpayer in our state. And that extra money resulted in us being able to give larger pay increases to teachers, to pay increases to our state employees. So they raided the piggy bank of the data centers so they could give out pay raises to teachers, state employees. You can always hide behind that. Oh, yeah, let's all give all the state employees and the teachers more money. Great. We also, and this is the part where you need to pay attention to this. We're also able to set aside some hundreds of millions of dollars for financial contingencies, such as the coming Medicaid crisis that we're dealing with due to what the Trump administration and Congress has done to us. And it's important that we set aside some money to deal with the possible negative budget actions that might happen if our economy starts to teeter, and even more than it already has. And I think it is worth to go through what we went through to get here. Paraphrasing that last part. So you're telling me all of this was, you can give your state employees a raise, teachers a raise, which you can hide behind that. And then the rest of this was legalizing marijuana retail sales. So guess what? You'll have a retail marijuana store coming to a community near you. And now I'm going to have a slush fund that I could use for the Medicaid crisis we're going to be dealing with from the Trump administration. And we'll have money we put aside in another slush fund for the possible negative impacts the next budget might have on us here in Virginia. So basically what you're telling me is you created slush funds that you're going to be able to put aside our tax dollars in, and then you'll be able to decide where you use it, when you use it, how you use it. Again, you want to go back to talk about all the cuts to Obamacare? Temporary. I guess Democrats don't understand what the word temporary means. Temporary means for a limited time, not permanent. But again, hey, Dave, have you ever read the kid's book, What Happens If You Give a Cookie to a Mouse?
No.
Oh, this is what this is right here. What happens if you give, let me see if I can find it real quick. What happens if you give a cookie to a mouse? He's going to want a glass of milk to go along with it. And once you give him a glass of milk, he's going to want a napkin. Once you give him a napkin, then he's going to want to sit down and watch TV. Once he watches TV, he's going to want to take a nap. Once he takes a nap, he's going to want his own bedroom. That's basically how the story goes. I should read it one day because it really is the playbook for progressive politics. What happens if you give someone a temporary subsidy for Obamacare during a COVID crisis? Well, they're going to want more. What happens when you include it in the American Rescue Plan? They're going to expect it to continue. What happens when you give it to them part of the Inflation Reduction Act? They're going to think that it's a permanent thing and they should always be able to have it. What happens when the big, beautiful bill takes it away? The Commonwealth of Virginia will go on a tirade and take us to the very last minute to get a budget, and then they'll go raid a piggy bank to come up with $1.2 billion that they can help fund a slush fund for that original temporary Obamacare. It's simply amazing. It is simply amazing. Poorly written budget, poorly written laws, two big slush funds. Oh, and by the way, thank you. They're going to give some of us our own money back, like it's doing us a favor when you put us into this whole stupid Reggie thing, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative that creates out of thin air commodities that we must now pay for using electricity. This whole thing has been a boondoggle, but it's going to get signed today. So thank goodness we can retire our song. Can I hear it one more time, Dave? Hopefully we don't have to play it anymore after today, because guess what? We got a budget.
Virginia, we finally got a budget. Guess what paid the price price when they chose to nudge it. They found a brand new piggy bank to raid. Now everybody's cheering for the deal they made. Portsmouth Lucas got the money she sought.
Oh, she found the money she found. She found the money she found in the piggy banks of others. And again, this money that they fought for, yeah, some of it's going to teachers, some of it'll go here, some of it'll go there. But basically, they're paying Obamacare subsidies that were temporary, and they're going to pay for slush funds that they can use. And by the way, who's going to keep an eye on those slush funds? How do I trust them? I can't even trust them to let us audit where the money came from for the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general's races. What makes you think they're going to be able to keep an eye on where that slush fund for future contingency plans go for? Wow. We'll talk with Tom Garrett about that. You guys want to comment, please feel free. 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140, the number for you to join us here on the program. So, like I said, Tom Garrett joins us 8:30 today on the program. You don't want to miss it. All right, today's program brought to you in part by Pearson Signature Dealerships. Only at Pearson